Wilos Law. Communication is the bread and butter of our social lives. We all talk and interact as we communicate with our surroundings. There are majorly two types of communication that we all have heard of, namely informal and formal communication. What if I told you that there are laws regarding human communication? Absurd, right? But true. WIIO'S laws are a set of humorous observations about human communication. They were given by Professor Osmo Antero Wilo in 1978. Understanding the meaning of the laws. The fundamental WIIO'S law states that communication usually fails, except by accident. The full set of laws is as follows: communication usually fails, except by accident. This law has 4 parts. Number 1. If communication can fail, it will. The factors that can make human communication fail might not be very serious when each of them is taken in isolation. However, there are so many risks, and they can interact in so many ways that it is statistically almost certain that communication fails. Number 2. If communication cannot fail, it still most usually fails. Even if you pay great attention to make your communication unambiguous, effective, and understandable, there will still be too many risks you haven't taken care of. Moreover, your measures are at best functional most of the time, which means that the combined probability for your communication to fail in at least one of the ways in which it could fail is higher than you dare to imagine. Number 3. If communication seems to succeed in the intended way, there's a misunderstanding. When communication seems to be simple, easy and successful, it's probably a total failure. The recipient looks happy and thankful because he understood your message his way, which is what he likes, and very different from what you were actually saying. Number 4. If you are content with your message, communication certainly fails. Being content with the formulation of your message is a sure sign of having formulated it just for yourself. If a message can be interpreted in several ways, it will be interpreted in a manner that maximizes the damage. This remark is a warning about the very real possibility that ambiguities will be resolved in just the way you did not mean. Notice that this does not mean the worst misunderstanding you can imagine, rather, something worse, an interpretation you could not have imagined when you formulated your message. There is always someone who knows better than you what you meant with your message. People who understand you can be a real nuisance. It might take some time before you see that they completely failed to see what you meant, but that does not prevent them from propagating their ideas as yours. The more we communicate, the worse communication succeeds. There's a widespread superstition that the more you communicate, the better. In reality, increasing the amount of communication most probably just causes more misunderstandings. This law also has another part stating: the more we communicate, the faster misunderstandings propagate. This refers to the fact that repetition strengthens false ideas. When people see the same message repeated over and over again, they usually start believing it. Even if your message happened to be true, they misunderstood it, so what they actually believe is not what you meant. And since the message has been presented so strongly, they tell it to their friends, who propagate it further, etc. Naturally, in that process, it gets distorted more and more. In mass communication, the important thing is not how things are but how they seem to be. Mass communication creates a world of its own, and people orient themselves in that virtual world rather than the real one. The importance of a news item is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. This simply states that events close to us look much more important to us than remote events. The more important the situation is, the more probable you had forgotten an essential thing that you remembered a moment ago. It applies both to senders and recipients. The recipient tends to forget relevant things, such as items which have been emphatically presented in the message as necessary requirements for understanding the rest of it. And the sender, upon receiving a request for clarification, such as a question during a lecture, will certainly be able to formulate an adequate, easy-to-understand answer afterwards, when the situation is over. These laws seem pretty straightforward, and all send one common message, that is, human communication system is a failure. But the question of the hour is that, are these laws even true? Let's find out. Are all these laws true? All these are humorous yet pessimistic observations about human communication are true, to some extent. Haven't we all been in a situation where we meant something else, and the other person interpreted the message in some other way? Such misunderstandings are a part of our everyday life. But why does such misunderstandings occur due to communication? What is it that we are doing wrong, which sends the wrong message out? Well, we have answers to all these questions. With the upsurge of social media usage for communication, face-to-face interaction has become difficult. It has also led to an increase in the volume of communication that happens these days. Everyone is talking to everyone on social media platforms. The everyday flow of communication is endless. Texts, emojis, slangs, all these messages are subject to misinterpretation. Skills hard-coded in our DNA through generations of evolution to improve our ability to communicate, like picking up on nonverbal cues and body language, are becoming less and less relevant with the rise of working from home and other working arrangements. Some of the reasons why human communication fail are: language differences. There are numerous languages in this entire world. Sometimes we fail to communicate simply because we do not understand their language. Nowadays there is a new social media language, which include the use of emojis. Even though these emojis generally have one simple meaning, like this is a sad face emoji. But there is a possibility that people might understand in a different way. Cultural differences. Your perception is influenced by the culture you are brought up in. Since interpretation of messages involves personal perception, it influences how you understand certain messages. With the internet, you can socialize with anyone across the globe. A message which is okay in your culture could be offensive in some other cultures, and it's difficult to know such things, especially when you are interacting via the internet. Personal differences. This is the most common reason why people can misunderstand some messages. For example, you had a fight with your friend, and he posts a picture online with someone else. Now he might not have any intention to piss you off. There's a very high chance that you'll think that he posted it just to make you jealous. Yes, that's how complicated communication is on the internet. The passive-aggressive WhatsApp status cold wars to full rage fights. The internet gives space to all sorts of miscommunications. Data loss. Sometimes the receiver is simply not paying attention to what you are saying, or the content of the message is too lengthy that some information is lost in the transfer. Corollary to WIIO'S laws. There are three notable corollaries to these laws. Corpella's first corollary: if nobody barks at you, your message did not get through. This simply means that every message is bound to have some criticism, due to the various factors like personal perception or differences influencing communication. This law makes an assumption that there will always be a person who misunderstands or have an opposing opinion. Whether or not he literally barks at you depends on his character, but there will be differences, that's for sure. Corpella's second corollary: search for information fails, except by accident. Internet is a vast abyss of information. One click leads to a zillion links related to that topic. This corollary says that your quest of information won't yield effective results. Instead, you'll just have a ton of useless information at your disposal. The pedagogic corollary: give the student a chance to realize he misunderstood it all. Teaching is a unidirectional transfer of information to recipient. This corollary means that even if recipient something, it will be misunderstood. Even though there's a continuous feedback cycle between a student and a teacher, there'll always be some information which just won't get through. For example, an assignment done by a student will always have some mistakes. even though he might have done everything according to the teacher, but that is his understanding of what his teacher wanted, therefore the space for error is created. The important thing is to realize that even the best explanations and illustrations will be misunderstood. The student needs a way of testing his understanding against some criteria. At best, this means doing something and seeing whether it works. Conclusion. In conclusion, we can say that whenever we communicate, there is a very high chance that our message will be misinterpreted, leading to a misunderstanding. So, should we not communicate at all? No, not at all. We all are social animals and we need to communicate with our surroundings. No matter how much complicated conversing can get, we all have to interact, and to have a smooth communication, it's best to improve your listening skills. Ask questions and ensure that the other person understands the intent of your message. And whenever you think that you are headed towards a misunderstanding, remember these laws and try to be more understanding. That was all about Wilos Law for you. Do like, share, comment and subscribe to our channel, Explified.